A quiet cowboy lived far from the world, known only for his lonely ranch and silent life. One day, he sent a simple marriage proposal by post. No name, no expectation, just hope. Days passed. Nothing. Then one morning, a wagon arrived. Not one woman, but 3 Apache women stepped down, each carrying the same letter. The town froze. No one knew which one he wrote to, or what truth was about to be revealed. The wind moved across Red Valley Ranch like it had no beginning and no end. It passed through dry grass, slipped over broken fences, and reached the small wooden house where Ethan Cole lived alone. He had lived that way for years. No one in the nearby town of Hollow Creek could remember the last time he had shared a meal with another person. Some said he chose it. Others said life had pushed him into it. Ethan never corrected anyone. He rarely spoke at all. Each morning, he woke before sunrise. He fed his horse, Dusty, checked the water trough, and walked the same worn paths around his land. The work was simple and repeated every day. It kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. But quiet was not the same as peace. In the evenings, he sat outside on a wooden step and watched the sky change color. Orange would fade into deep blue, then into a dark filled with stars. He often stayed there long after the cold settled in. There was a time when Ethan was different. He had once been part of the town, part of conversations, part of plans that involved more than just survival. That life felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else. People in town still spoke about him in short comments. A man who keeps to himself. A man who does not trouble anyone. A man who seems to carry something he will not share. Ethan never confirmed or denied any of it. One night, as the wind pressed against the walls of his home, he opened a small drawer he had not touched in a long time. Inside was a blank sheet of paper and a pen. He held them for a while without moving. The room was still except for the sound of wood shifting in the cold. Slowly, he began to write. Not with certainty, but with something closer to honesty. He wrote a few lines, stopped, then continued again. When he finished, he read the words once, folded the paper, and placed it carefully into an envelope. The next morning, he walked into town and sent it by post without telling anyone. After that, he returned to his ranch and waited, not knowing what he was waiting for. The letter moved slowly through places Ethan never knew. It passed from one post office to another, sometimes sitting in forgotten stacks, sometimes carried by travelers who had no idea what they were holding. It was simple, and because of that, many people did not know what to make of it. Some thought it was a mistake. Others thought it was not important enough to send forward. But it kept moving until it reached a distant Apache region divided into 3 small communities. In those communities lived 3 women. Ayanna was known for her steady hands and her care for those who were sick or hurt. People trusted her because she listened more than she spoke. Neshoba was quiet and observant. She did not rush into decisions. She often understood things others missed. Elu was different from both. She moved with confidence and rarely stayed in one place for long. She believed life was meant to be faced directly, without hesitation. The letter reached them without explanation. There was no clear name at first, only words asking for someone who understood a life shaped by silence. Each woman read it in her own time. None of them spoke much after reading it. They did not treat it like a joke or a mistake. Something about it felt real in a way they could not easily explain. Days passed. The elders suggested ignoring it, saying it came from a world that did not understand their ways. But the letter stayed in their thoughts. And without planning it together, each woman made the same decision. They would go and see the man who had written it. The morning was still when the first wagon appeared on the dirt road leading to Red Valley Ranch. Ethan was outside, checking the fence line, when he noticed the movement in the distance. At first, he thought it was a supply wagon from town. Then he saw a second wagon behind it. And a third. He stopped walking. The horses slowed as they reached his land, dust rising around their hooves. The silence around the ranch felt different now, as if it had been interrupted by something that did not belong to his usual life. The wagons came to a stop near the open field. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the first woman stepped down. Ayanna looked around carefully, taking in the land, the house, and the man standing near the fence. She did not speak immediately. She simply observed. The second woman followed. Neshoba moved more slowly, her eyes steady, as if she was reading more than just the place. She held the envelope in her hand, the same one Ethan had sent into the world. The third woman jumped down with ease. Elu looked directly at Ethan without hesitation, as if she had already decided she would not be afraid of what came next. Ethan stood still. He had faced storms, broken fences, and long winters alone, but nothing prepared him for this moment. A small group from the nearby town had already gathered at a distance, watching quietly. Whispering started, but no one came closer. Ayana spoke first. Her voice was calm. "We came because of your letter." Neshoba added, "It reached all of us." Elu stepped forward slightly. "And none of us turned away from it." Ethan looked at each of them, struggling to understand what was happening. He had written a few lines in solitude, never expecting a reply, let alone 3 answers. The wind moved through the field again, but even it seemed slower now. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was full of questions that had not yet found words. Ethan did not know what else to do, so he offered them shelter. The ranch had space, but it had never felt smaller than it did that night. The 3 women did not argue over where to stay. They simply settled into different parts of the place as if they were trying to understand it before deciding anything about themselves. Ayana rose early the next morning. She noticed a lame horse near the back pen. Without asking, she went to it, checked its leg, and began cleaning the wound with careful hands. Ethan watched from a distance, unsure when she had learned enough about his land to move through it so easily. Neshoba walked the edges of the ranch later that day. She looked at the broken fence posts, the dry patches of land, and the old tools left unused near the shed. She did not speak much, but she saw everything. When she passed Ethan, she only asked one question. "How long have you lived without fixing what is broken?" He did not answer right away. Elu spent her time outside, often sitting on the fence or walking toward the open fields. She did not seem concerned with chores or questions. Instead, she watched the horizon as if she was measuring distance in her own way. By evening, the 3 women sat near the fire outside the house. Ethan joined them after finishing his work, though he felt like a visitor in his own home. No one rushed to speak. The fire cracked softly, and the night air settled around them. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "I did not expect anyone to come," he said. Ayana nodded slightly. "Most people do not expect to be answered." Neshoba looked at him. "But you still wrote it." Elu added, "That means something in you was not finished speaking." Ethan stared into the fire. He had no reply that felt complete. The town had begun watching more closely now. Some saw confusion in what was happening. Others saw something they could not name. But inside the ranch, something else was forming. Not agreement. Not conflict. Something slower. Each of them had arrived because of one letter. Now they were learning that a few written lines could not explain what would follow. By the 3rd day, word had spread through Hollow Creek. People came close to the edge of the ranch just to look, then left again without speaking. They wanted an answer, but no one inside the fence seemed ready to give one. That morning, Ethan stood alone near the old fence line. The 3 women were packing their things. No one had said it directly, but something was ending in a quiet way. Ethan finally spoke. "I did not ask for a choice between you," he said. "I asked for someone who understands silence." Ayana stopped first. "Then silence has already answered you," she said. Neshoba looked at him calmly. "It did not bring one path. It brought 3 reflections." Elu tied her bag and gave a small nod. "And now you see more than you did before." Ethan felt the weight of his own words from the past. He had written them thinking they would disappear. Instead, they had returned with consequences he did not expect. The women left together, not as rivals, but as people who had shared a moment that could not be repeated. Ethan remained by the fence as the dust settled. The ranch was quiet again, but it no longer felt empty in the same way. For the first time, he understood that what he had sent into the world had come back changed, and so had he. Ethan watched the dust fade down the road until there was nothing left to see. The ranch was quiet again, but the silence felt different now. It was no longer something he was hiding in. It was something he understood a little better. He turned back toward his land and slowly walked inside, carrying the weight of what had happened without needing to explain it to anyone. Sometimes one small message can open a door you never meant to unlock. And sometimes what returns is not what you expected, but what you needed to face. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one. Comment below. Would you still send a message into the unknown if you knew it might change your life forever? Share this story with someone who believes that even silence can carry meaning.